This video is an exploration of how the Baltimore Ravens defense avoided giving up a touchdown to J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings on the second possession in Saturday's preseason win. Of course, the simplest explanation is J.J. McCarthy missed two opportunities, in fact, to score. Nonetheless, we're going to look at the schemes that Jesse Minter and Anthony Weaver deployed, and perhaps some of the reasons why McCarthy actually missed two of the opportunities to score. So the first time through here, we'll just let this flow and talk about the reads or the progression. Number one is to the downside of the screen. Number four, I think that's Miles Price. Number two is moving across. And then three, the third option, is what J.J. McCarthy actually takes. It's Claiborne, the running back. I'm going to try to do this for as many plays as possible. Basically, highlight the reads or the progression if possible, to let people understand, what the quarterback is doing and where he's looking. But in many cases, I can give you the end zone angle view, and you can kind of confirm it for yourself. So this is the same play, still from the all-22 angle. It's a 12 personnel grouping, and the Ravens are going to be in 2 deep, 4 under. So what that means is all 5 of the guys lined up on the line of scrimmage here are going to rush the quarterback. And so we're only covering with 6 rather than a zone blitz structure from a 3 deep, 3 under standpoint, which doesn't really necessarily fit in this part of the field. Jesse Minter and Anthony Weaver go with a 2 deep, 4 under coverage, something that I really love that Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter use a lot of. I think that Dominic DeLuca does a great job here of handling these routes. Now, TJ Tampa is playing a flat position, so squatting in the flats and jamming Miles Price in, and you can see that McCarthy has already gone off of that read. He's now looking at this triangle here between the inside linebacker DeLuca and the safety, and in my opinion, DeLuca does a really nice job of being available to support with this route second, after possibly helping out with this route first. Now, I don't think McCarthy necessarily saw DeLuca, but there are a supported safety inside out, inside linebacker to help. But in any case, McCarthy pretty quickly gets to that second read, the drag coming back across the field. You can see that he actually pump faked for a moment after looking at DeLuca, and then finally goes back to Claiborne. It's a really nice design, in my opinion. It's a one-man screen, or some people call it escort screen. And you can see that having 3 defenders to each side triangulated helps the Ravens, I think, early. So we're talking about these 3 defenders being able to help with this route by Price, and then this route from the other side of the field, which I think is Felton. In addition, up to the top, those 3 defenders being able to help out with this tight end's route, and then this escort screen to the top side, which is where McCarthy goes. But something that's a benefit early on becomes a drawback later. And what I mean is, because the safety, I think that's Wallace, is kind of pulled off at depth to handle the tight end, now it's a 2-on-2. And we're fortunate that this didn't end up going into the end zone, in my opinion. Claiborne powers through down to the 3 to set up a second and goal from the 3. And this is one of the first missed throws that we'll talk about. So it's a 12 personnel group. Once again, similar motion to what we just saw. McCarthy checks the tight end down in the flats, and of course he goes to Felton up top here, and this throw is definitely hot. It is nonetheless in Felton's hands, but it's going to take a spectacular effort for him to catch this football. I think McCarthy does some things with his lower body that kind of influence him to use so much torque with his arm. Seems like there's less work, less force from his cleats being in the ground and pushing off, and everything seems to be upper body related. You can see the spin kind of like in a counterclockwise motion, if you will, of his body. It oftentimes indicates, or is a precursor, I should say, for a throw being high when you're trying to throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball like he is. We'll do the same play from the all-22 angle again and just kind of break down how the Ravens cover it. So the structure that the Ravens are in, kind of keep it in mind, a little bit of a goal line look that's very similar to what the Seattle Seahawks used last year to great effect in short yardage situations. What I'm referring to is the 4 down linemen on the interior, 2 stand-up edge defenders, one of which oftentimes can be an inside linebacker kind of walked up. And then whether you have 1 inside linebacker structure or not, you still have 2 or perhaps 3 second-level defenders who can fit between this gap, between the edge defender and that 4-eye. Sometimes he's a really tight 3. But in any case, there's the routes that we get. Felton is the target from the downside of the screen, working all the way across. That's TJ Tampa playing corner here for the Ravens. At some point, he will pass this route off to Felton to the opposite side of the field. So I will give you the end zone angle here in a moment so you can see what McCarthy is reading. But in any case, Walters takes the tight end in motion out into the flats. You can see that McCarthy is checking there first. He has a tight end going underneath, and he has Felton going across. Tampa is going to release that route eventually. Some communication possibly occurred, and or he just visually recognized that Wallace could take over the coverage on that route. Let's switch to the end zone angle. We don't really get a whole lot from these two guys as edge defenders on this particular play. It's Dominic DeLuca over here who's going to make a spectacular play here in a moment against the run on third down. But on this particular snap, we don't really get a whole lot accomplished from those guys from a pass rush standpoint. A, because they dropped out number 50. B, DeLuca, it looks a little uncomfortable trying to rush the passer and or deal with this cut block from the running back. So the second part of the read, I think, is here. Third part there. McCarthy has checked Felton going across already, in my opinion. I think and I know we're magnified or zoomed in, so forgive me if it reduces some of your perspective or understanding of what's happening. But I think he's checking this first and then goes to the tight end crossing. That's why I have it labeled 2, 3. And he's actually pump faking here for a moment and then checking the tight end. And then he confirms, or excuse me, he sees that the edge defender 50 has dropped out. We're talking about right here. And so perhaps there's a little bit of panic here, but it shouldn't be. It's a clean pocket. And I just feel like everything McCarthy does is here up as far as generating power when he's trying to go with his, his fastball. And this dead leg creates some possibility for inconsistency, if you will, or straight leg, some possibility for inconsistency. I have seen in my own experience and then watching NFL film as well, that this oftentimes leads to throws that are high. I'm not saying in every iteration of it, but because McCarthy is trying to put so much on this ball and not deliver it with any touch at all, I think that's the difference between this ball being here and catchable maybe 10% of the time versus here and being, at the 90-95% clip. Hopefully I explain all that in a way that makes sense. Of course, J.J. McCarthy missed an opportunity for a touchdown. This is about how the Ravens tried to give him the lowest percent possible on his throw and or the play that he chose, because you never know if there was a run concept as part of the tag or secondary portion of the call, and McCarthy chose not to go to it. All right, the very next snap after the incompletion, I have this labeled as 11 personnel, and 82 might actually be a wide receiver, but oftentimes his movements and his routes look kind of tight end-ish, if you ask me. But since it's 11 personnel, the Ravens have responded with their nickel defense. Dominic DeLuca, a great fill here against the left guard. In addition, Broderick Washington, a spectacular move. It's the second time I've seen him do this, kind of swim over the top to evade a double team or potential combo block. Washington clips the running back. DeLuca is solid straight up against him. I will give you the end zone angle here in a moment. And then you've got the boundary side safety, Wallace, and also Higgins are both reacting to this to help out and stop the running back 1 yard short. End zone angle will kind of reveal a couple things to you. First, the blocking scheme, kind of duo-ish here with the right guard and right tackle. The left guard and the center are supposed to combo block Broderick Washington. Left tackle working out to the defensive end. So what we really want to pay attention to is what happens in this box here. And that's Broderick Washington and Dominic DeLuca. Now, it should be said, this is a violent take on by DeLuca, don't get me wrong, but the center's left foot is being engaged or being tripped, if you will, by the left guard, which all of that occurs because Broderick Washington swims over the top in an unexpected manner for the left guard. You can see the left guard steps are down. The center steps are to Broderick Washington. And because Broderick Washington disappears quickly, he's playing well, by the way. I mean, some Ravens fans aren't going to want to hear that. I hope to have a video out on Tuesday morning about Broderick Washington and Aeneas Peebles. I think both of those guys, played really well. But this happened. Dominic DeLuca, who's played really well, in my opinion, this preseason. He did smash the center, but the center's lower half was compromised, number one. Number two, Wallace appears to check the backside receiver after getting a run read. So we're talking about his eyes here being in the B gap. We need his help because it's a nickel personnel group. And you can see after the ball is snapped, He's immediately having his eyes flash to the receiver that's off screen to our left. And then that makes him a little bit late getting here. If Broderick wasn't so effective with the swim move, this is a touchdown in my opinion. If Broderick wasn't so effective here, then he's not going to disrupt things, and it's potential for the running back Claiborne to try to bounce off the exterior, the outside half of the center's block on DeLuca. But, you know, it's great effort by the Ravens guys. Again, did McCarthy miss one throw earlier, and is he getting ready to miss a second one? Yes, it certainly did. But credit to the Ravens defense, the way that they play, the violence with which they performed on this third down to hold Claiborne to 2 yards. All right, so that sets up the 4th and 1. Obviously, the incomplete pass from McCarthy to Miles Price, who's had apparently a great training camp for the Minnesota Vikings. This is also Ty Felton, Maryland product, out of Northern Virginia originally in high school. But Ravens are in that same goal line look against 11 personnel. So we're talking about this setup here and one solo inside linebacker. I'll try to do a standalone video on this and compare it to what the Seahawks did in 2025. You can see that it's incomplete. Ball is high. I think McCarthy's doing the same thing with his throw here. Everything is in the upper half. You've got nothing, in my opinion, to stabilize things with the lower half. I think his right foot is extremely light, and he's trying to generate as much. It's not just that he's throwing it as hard as he can. It's that he's throwing it as hard as he can, and everything is from up top here, in my opinion. But let's get back to the scheme for a moment. It's obviously a pick rub, if you will, by Felton. Felton's releasing to the outside, so he's got to get to the outside shoulder of Tampa, and that could be a precursor for Keon Martin to play this a little better. There's only one reason for that guy to fight to the outside and intentionally make contact, and that is to put you in conflict. And certainly there was a severe amount of conflict. We do have help inside out. It's DeLuca once again. I'll show the same play from the All-22. We're talking about DeLuca lined up as an edge defender here one more time. It's that goal line look that I mentioned. 6-1, if you want to call it, whatever. Wallace is lined up over the tight end, so it's, it's obviously cover 0. Post-snap, running back is going to cross McCarthy's face, and as a result, DeLuca steps to the outside to help out from an inside-out standpoint. Martin, some would say, maybe he doesn't have to react so much and jump to the inside, but it could be any kind of route for Miles Price, all right? Number one. Number two, unless it's predetermined, this happens so fast, that pick, that rub, that screen. Look, do I think Martin could play it better? Yes, but because he ends up really far downfield, and tremendous separation for Miles Price is created. That ball is obviously too high from McCarthy. My opinion is that, it's a problem with how much or how little consistency and power is being generated here, and then an overcompensation up top above the waist with his arms, with his shoulder. DeLuca potentially could help out with something to the inside. Maybe we could play it better as more of like a 3-over-2, if you will. Felton certainly went out of his way to jam or knock TJ Tampa off the ball. We got away with one there for sure. Don't get me wrong. That's a drill. This is very similar, if you recall, to the interception that Russell Wilson threw in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. The only difference is the receiver there cut it under, and here Miles Price is going under and then jumping back to the outside. It's a neat concept against a zero, straight man, if you will. Quite simple. The receiver and or corner, are they allowed to make this type of contact throughout the entirety of a 100-yard field? Not necessarily. It seems like the whistle was kind of swallowed a little bit by the officials, or the flag is, excuse me, I use a basketball analogy, my apologies, but it seems like the flag is kind of held by the refs a little bit in these short yardage / goal line situations when receivers set picks or screens. There's a fun sequence to talk about. Obviously, that Vikings fans and so many others have discussed J.J. McCarthy ad nauseum. There has to be a point in time at which people talk about if one or two quarterbacks are exhibiting the same problems, which in my opinion is related to a lack of consistency, stability with your feet and or your lower half, then you got to look at the quarterback coach and the people that are in charge. So are Kyler Murray and Carson Wentz having the same trouble as J.J. McCarthy right now? Well, they didn't demonstrate it in this game. First of all, Kyler Murray didn't play. Second of all, Wentz, I think, was 9 of 11 passing, didn't necessarily get these opportunities. It's interesting to me that so much blame goes on J.J. McCarthy, and he did miss these through throws. And Kevin O'Connell really reminds me of Kevin Stefanski. It's like the guy can do no wrong. It's never anything to do with his ability to develop a player, in this case, a quarterback, and the onus is always on McCarthy. It's a very interesting dynamic. Perhaps it's related to the whole Michigan thing and how they won a national title and what went on with stealing signs, among other things, at that university in the last few or 3 years. But in any case, this is how the Ravens escaped giving up a touchdown to McCarthy, and the Vikings, obviously very fortunate on that 4th and 1 situation. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, if you think other Ravens fans or Vikings fans, for that matter, would like to listen to my thoughts on this second possession and how it turned out for in the Ravens' favor, as well as the plays that I used to illustrate it and the breakdown, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach. Appreciate you guys' time.